voice or what?
You know, we should freeze.
Yes.
A little Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh no, the podcast is frozen.
Yeah. Glitch. Then we move. Click.
Click.
Oh, we're live right now. We are live right now. 7 people across the world are watching us. 123.
And
wow.
2 of them, my mom and your mom.
My mom is very
That's
proud,
right.
and she's very proud
That's
of you.
right.
Very proud. I'm here with Mark Batterson at what conference? What is this?
The Whiteboard
The
Sessions.
Whiteboard
Ed,
Sessions.
You can't even keep track of what.
Well,
what
we've
time zone you're in.
been traveling together. So
Yeah.
so I'm here at the Whiteboard Sessions. Hundreds came, thousands were saved. It's an exciting day. I don't know. And Mark, tell them now. These folks did not see what you
Yes.
just said.
Yeah.
So start by unpacking it. It's 8 influential speakers, 8 ideas, 30 minutes. I don't remember. Tell us what your one idea is that you brought to the folks today.
Okay, so basically re-preach my entire half-hour.
Well,
message.
in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
All the fluff you put in there, take
Yeah.
it out.
You know
and
what?
just give us 4 minutes.
Here's what God put on my heart for this morning. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, my thoughts and your thoughts, declares the Lord. In other words, God compares the distance between our thoughts, his thoughts, to the expanse of the universe. So my simple thought was, your best thought about God on your best day is 13.2 billion light years short of how good and how great God really is.
That's good.
Boom. That was it.
That's good.
And
And turn your mic on would help. Hey, we're working great. You know the technology.
did we got it? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was smooth, man. Right there. We were
Yes,
good.
yeah.
This is live TV right
It
now.
is,
I'm just
man.
glad there's only 7 people watching.
This is the
So
game.
That helps. You talk a little bit about the Great Commission, called the Great Dream, and
Yeah.
seeing it through God. I mean, give us, how do we see the world and the tasks different when we have that God-sized vision?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with this. I mean, Ed, it just how many average believers don't even get the fact that you are part of the greatest dream ever dreamt, the redemption of humankind. And so what happens is, if we don't understand it in the context of the great dream and then God wanting us to be dreamers, then honestly, I think you go through the motions. You forget what the end goal is, and then the means become an end. Well, I'm just going to church. I'm just doing spiritual disciplines. Well, those things are to help us make that God-ordained dream become reality.
Ivan Illich, famous philosopher, anarchist. You don't get that quoted much in an interview right there. Huh? Ivan Illich was asked once, if we're going to change the way people think, do we do it through a revolution or incremental change? And he said neither. He said, you got it wrong. You tell an alternative story. And you're kind of challenging the church to tell a different story, a more challenging story. How do we get that down to the level of normal, everyday people who love Jesus but are trapped in a small story, need to be in a big story?
Yeah. Well, I think...
Table's fallen. We got
no, it is. I mean, I think it's about turning the kaleidoscope a little bit to reveal a new pattern, a new story, and sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees. And the big thing is what we forget.
Right.
And so honestly, I mean, I think the way that you create culture is, what are you dishing up 52 weeks out of the year? What are you preaching about? How are you approaching things? Because eventually our worldview as communicators is what really becomes the culture of the church. And so, one of the things I try to do is just remind us consistently. You got to cast vision all the time, and we've got to remind people of why we're doing what we're doing.
That's good. You wrote a book in a pit with a lion on a snowy day. I've read
You
the
got
Bible through 13 times.
Yeah.
I've never seen that verse until you picked it out of obscurity and made a book out of it. Why that, and how does it fit into this vision you have for the church?
Yeah. Well, it's this story about Benaiah chases a lion into a pit on a snowy day. And I mean, the premise is that if you're in a pit with a lion on a snowy day, you've got a problem. Serious problem.
This is why you're this pastor of theater church, because you know
yes.
those things. That's
Yes.
right. National community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But if you're applying for a bodyguard position
Yes.
with the King of Israel, looks great on your resume,
Fair
and
enough.
so wrong place at wrong time turns into the right place at the right time.
Okay.
And it's the coolest story because Benaiah goes on to become David's bodyguard and eventually commander-in-chief of Israel's army. And so to me, it's a story about the sovereignty of God. And one of my fallback verses, Proverbs 16:9, in our heart we plan our course, but God orders our footsteps. And so at the end of the day, man, it's just an amazing thing to be a part of the kingdom under the umbrella of his sovereignty and knowing that he's going to get us where he wants us to go.
Good. Now, you took the book and it made it into a Bible study series called Chase the Lion by
Yes.
Threads.
Yeah,
And,
Threads with Lifeway.
And That's kind of a Bible study people can use to apply some of those things. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I didn't want it to be a book that people would just read and then set down. And so sometimes a study guide or reading through it in the context of other people, my goal is for people to actually identify what is that line that God's calling you to chase. And one of the best ways to do that is in a small group context with other people. And so we turned it into a study guide just to let people wrestle with some of the concepts. And and Threads did a great job of putting it together. And it's a cool resource for small groups.
It really is. Leadership Network just today released a concept study on what they call third place churches. The idea that be this, we got first place being the home, second place being the work, third place being that social setting where people gather. Your church is the lead illustration in that concept paper. I've had the privilege, you showed me around there at the cafe, and which, correct me, it was an old milk and butter station. Tell people a little bit of the story of Ebenezer and how all that came about.
1908, it was a little diner, half a block from Union Station, and so before they had food service on the trains, people would come over, grab a meal at this little diner, and then in the 50s, refrigeration, eat at the station, went out of business. We found it in a sense. It was a crack house when we bought it, turned it into a coffee house, and Ed, the whole philosophy behind it was this: that Jesus didn't just hang out in the synagogue. He also hung out at wells, and wells weren't just a place to draw water; they were natural gathering places in ancient culture. And coffee houses are postmodern wells. It's where people hang out. And so we have a place where hundreds of people grab a cup of coffee, use our Wi-Fi, and then, we want to get them into one of those Saturday night services where they can find a relationship with Christ. Or Alpha, we host an Alpha there, and people are exploring the faith. And a lot of those people are just customers coming through, not people who are part of our church.
It's good. Alpha, for those who might not know, is kind of the largest kind of community-based evangelistic study, I guess, that's out there. It's very broadly used internationally. When we went down, you took me downstairs to the basement, and you had that stage and the camera. What do you do there compared to what do you do in the theaters?
Yeah.
How do those two relate to each other?
Yeah, well, Saturday night, it's a very intimate service. We just pack people in, and
At Ebenezer.
At Ebenezer's,
Right.
we have a performance space on the lower level, and man, I'll tell you what, you pack people in a room and people who just had a cup of coffee with lots of caffeine, awesome worship. Highly recommend it. And we videotape that message in high definition.
Okay.
It goes onto hard drives that then go to our movie theater locations, and some of our services are live and some are that videotape message that go up on the movie screen.
It's amazing. And you've really been able to impact some of that. People don't know that Washington is very much of a young adult culture. You've got all these people there. You've been able to engage that. How is that different than maybe ministries you've served in the past, where you're reaching, in a sense, young adult elite in the Northern Virginia, D.C. area?
Yeah, well, the country is run by 20-somethings.
Yeah. People don't know that outside
No,
of
the
Washington.
Hill staffers are writing the legislation. They're telling their congressmen how to vote. They're doing the work.
Yep.
And that's primarily the makeup of our congregation. And so we are 67% single 20-somethings. Now the part of the reality of that is we experience between 40 and 50% turnover per year.
Wow.
And so we're kind of a revolving door.
Sure.
But the cool thing is that, with the use of some technology, podcast, webcast, we really feel like we still have that extended family then all around the world. In fact, this isn't a question, but this is just too cool.
Go for it.
A week ago, got an email from a couple working for the State Department. They're in Burkina Faso, couldn't find a church.
Sure.
They take our weekly webcast, and this they call it our fifth location, is growing. People are coming,
Right.
and they do their worship piece, but then they gather around that webcast, and that's what a day and age. It's just so exciting.